Good afternoon. Y'all are going to have to tell me how I'm doing as far as the mic, if I'm too close, if I'm too far. I'm not going to do any shouting tonight, but if I get excited, you let me know and I'll try to tone it down. I want to thank Joe and Laura, Mr. Risk, and the rest of the steering committee for the invitation to come out and speak. I'm not an expert on this topic, or any topic really. As Joe mentioned, I'm a recent college grad, and so in many ways I'm just a tadpole in a big ocean. But I've been doing some research and I've been doing some studies. I think educating the whole mass of the people is really, really important. And I'm taking that responsibility, my responsibility for my own education seriously. And I'm talking about education in terms of understanding the world and looking at ideas and how those ideas impact people, not necessarily education in the route of memorization or lecture kind of education. Because frankly, I did go to a business school, through a business program in undergrad, and we did have economics courses. But anything I learned here, whatever I've learned is a representation of what I've been doing on my own, studying and research. I think it's important for all of us, regardless of what the issue is, the topic today in America and the world. As we make up our minds, it has to be from our own understanding, from our own knowledge, and not from what's given in the media. Not that that will be true or not true, but for us to make a decision and act on it, it requires a conscience that has been decided based on facts and on solid ideas, and for that we have to learn. And so that's what I've been doing. So without further ado then, I'll get into the topic today. As I said, I'm not an expert. I don't have a PhD in environmental economics, in physics, chemistry, nuclear physics, but I just want to share tonight a little bit of what I've learned, and I hope that will be of some benefit to you. Because this issue really, it may not seem as important as fiscal policy, as our debt, monetary policy, but it is closely related to the bigger issue of how society constitutes government, what the role of society, what the role of government should be in America today. And this relates closely to that, so I hope there'll be some benefit to you. This is the approach I'm taking towards the larger issue of environmental policy and environmental issues, concerns. Is approaching it from the perspective of scarcity, waste, new technology. I'm not suggesting that this is the approach that every free market thinker economist takes. I think, for one thing, I didn't originate any of these ideas myself. I've mostly been studying them, but this is the way I've chosen to structure it, and I hope it will guide us tonight in an efficient manner. What this means, the approach you saw there, is it's an approach based on property rights. And if that sounds different or new, it isn't, because that's what this country was founded on, and it's what's been responsible for our prosperity in the last 200 years. And so that's kind of what I want to base it on. So looking at this, I want to go then, just to give you guys some idea of what is out there now. And I'll start with the most radical people in the environmental group, just to give us some perspective. This is kind of what dominates a lot of the conversation right now. Looking at these first two quotes here. Until such a time as Homo sapiens should decide to rejoin nature, some of us can only hope for the right virus to come along. And we are cancer on nature. And what I want to emphasize is some of these gentlemen here, the ones in the next couple of quotes, these are not loony tunes. They're not crazies. These are people who are on think tanks, on boards of major environmental organizations. They're thinkers, they're writers. Some of them are members of federal and local governments who are impacting the policies, the environmental policies that we have now and have had for the last few years. Looking at this one here, this is Derek Jensen saying, every morning when I wake, I ask myself whether I should write or blow the dam. I tell myself I should keep writing, though I'm not sure that's right. And Derek Jensen, he in this case, he's not an actual policy expert or government official. What he is often considered one of the chief philosopher poets in the environmental movement. Though he may not be deciding policy, he is certainly driving vision and giving ideas. And if that isn't positive concern, I'm not sure what is. Going back real quick, if you will, Joe, to the last slide. This is the avatar mindset. What I mean by that is that if you look closely at what the last few quotes have been saying, I'm not sure what else to describe it except to say that it's pantheism. It's worship of nature. That's not my beliefs. If that's what they want to believe, that's fine. But going right back to what Joe was saying earlier, this is what the avatar mindset is. This is our religion. They view the earth as their mother, and I don't entirely understand it, but it is religion, and they're essentially asking all of us to live by their religion. And that's untenable and not something we can't have in America. The reason I call it the Avatar mindset is if you look at something that's coming out of Hollywood now, how many of you have actually seen that movie? Has anyone here seen it? It's got a lot of great graphic effects. It's a great cinematic piece of work, but the ideology behind it is this: it's pantheism, and that kind of ideology permeates a lot of America today, and a lot of, as you saw in those quotes, the environmental policies that we're seeing. It's flawed, it's a religion, and they have every right to have that faith. They don't have the right to impose it on everyone else. So this group is the hardest group to talk to in the environmental movement. This is the hardest group to negotiate with, to interact with, and they're the ones who pose, in a way, the most direct attack, because what they're really arguing for then is an end to civilization as we know it. That's the implications of it. And really, with a lot of pagan faiths, I would argue that's the result. So moving on to the next slide here. This is the second group. These are what I call socialist Greens. Maybe other people use that moniker as well. This person is saying they would rather rape the environment and make a lot of money for themselves than not rape the environment, clean up, and later on, stay competitive. The mills are here to make a lot of profit, and they're making a lot of profit at the cost of our environment. And so these people don't necessarily hate human beings, because if you realize from the previous quotes, the implications of what the previous people were saying is that humanity is the cancer. They're not really looking for the benefit of humankind or human beings. They're interested in how human beings fit into the overall God of Earth. And so we have a place in this Earth, but it's not any kind of higher status than nature. These people recognize the benefits of society of putting a premium on human life, and they recognize human beings as having some sort of worth separate and different from what the rest of the nature has. But they fault capitalism, industry, greed, modern industrial society for what they see as their degradation of nature. They may hold some of the same pantheistic views, but their main emphasis is on saying the problem isn't that we have to go back to living in trees. We have to somehow undo industrialization. We have to averse capitalism. It's essentially socialism with a green approach, and that's this view here. Another quote here, Barry Commoner. He says the origin of the environmental crisis can be traced back to the capitalist precept that the choice of production technology is to be governed solely by private interest and profit maximization. I mean, if you take that name away, we could all imagine that would be Marx speaking. It's the same approach that communism has taken for many years, only it's from a green perspective. It's not impossible to debate these people because you can actually try to approach it from a rational perspective, which is what they're trying to do, and try to debate them there. But it is very, very difficult. Here's, I believe, one of the last ones. He says, they say the danger lies not in the odd maverick polluting factory, industry, or technology, but in industrialism itself. They don't necessarily want to go back to living in the trees, but they don't want a capitalist society, one built on private property, free enterprise. They see that as the problem, hence the socialist Greens. Here's the last one. The plundering of the human spirit by the marketplace is paralleled by the plundering of the earth by capital. And free markets take the sacredness out of life, and because there can be nothing sacred in something that has a price. Now, I want to apologize for that extra quotation marks there. I'm also human and fallible. What I want to do with this is not to scare anyone or to just put out hatred of these people, but I want to show you the difficulty of why the difficulty of this issue, why it's relevant, and why we're seeing what we're seeing now. This polarization, because